Bridget, thank you so much for being here on my show. I could not be more thrilled that you reached out to me via email. I am so excited for everyone to hear about everything you have to say. And I'm actually thrilled that you're close to me. So a little selfish in that way. And so just thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be on this podcast.
I'm so glad. All right. So let's first of all, let's get a little bit of your background. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like um, I'm going to just let you introduce like what you do. Just give
Yeah.
us a little introduction to you.
Okay, so I'm Bridget. I am originally from Westchester County, New York, which is not too far out of the city. So not in country land, not near pet pigs at all. But I have always had a love for pigs, and I'm unsure where it came from, but it started when I was really young. And I always wanted a pet pig, and my parents were like, where are you gonna put a pig? And I was like, I don't know, but I want one. So I also always wanted to be a vet. And so when I went to undergrad at Purdue, I kind of threw myself into farm animal life because I wanted to learn as much as I could about pigs and about kind of the industry, not really sure that if I wanted to go into production medicine, because at that time I had thought, there's really no pet pig industry for veterinary medicine out there. And so production would be the next best thing. Or if I wanted to kind of stay away from production altogether and just go into small animal medicine. But I still had a love for pigs. And so I kind of tossed that idea up and down. And then I ended up getting into vet school right after undergrad. And I went to Ohio State, and I just graduated this past May, which is exciting. Um,
Congratulations.
Thank you. And in vet school, I learned a lot about pet pig medicine and that they have their own kind of field. And it's definitely something that you can just go into and specialize in. So I kind of threw myself into that. I had a student that was 2 years above me that also wanted to do pet pig medicine. So she was really helpful in kind of guiding me into what routes to go into in terms of clinicals and how to spend my time. And I met some amazing people along the way that kind of landed me here today.
Oh, man, I cannot tell you how excited I am that there are people out there interested in going into
Oh,
the field of pet pig veterinary medicine.
yeah.
That makes me so excited because I mean, I can't even tell you how many messages I get from people constantly. Hey, do you know of any pigs or excuse me, do you know of any knowledgeable pig vets in Washington State, Florida? I mean, you name it. And even out of the country, people ask me.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's
Yeah,
very
no,
few.
there's very, very few. And the way I kind of approach pet pig medicine is kind of from a dog and cat perspective, treating them as true pets rather than as farm animals, but also keeping in mind that there are some limitations. They are farm animals in the world's eyes. And so it's definitely hard because people will treat them differently, even though a lot of small animal clinics can see pet pigs because they
Mhm.
have the resources and all the materials needed to see them. So it's definitely hard to get the education out there to a lot of the veterinarians.
Yeah, you're so right. Like people just, so many vets, at least that I've come across in my life. I've had pet pigs for almost 18 years.
Oh
So
my God.
way back 18 years ago when I got my first pig, I was driving almost 3 hours to find a vet. And he was just a farm vet that he was like, sure, it's a pig, just bring him in. So to see where we've come today is so exciting for me. Now I go to Red Star, which is in East Canton.
Yeah.
And and they're great. They do so well. But how exciting to have you close too. I
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit about something else, and then we'll get into what you do now. But
Okay.
do you have a pet pig? Have you ever had a pig?
Yes. So, funny story. So, like I said, I was very much gung ho about getting a pet pig when I was younger. And so, when I was in second grade, I decided the only way to protest to my parents for getting a pet pig was to stop eating pork. Um, and I thought that would like encourage them to then get me a pet pig. It didn't work. I wish it did, but it didn't work. But that continued in through my adult years. And actually, on my first day of vet school, my brother had called me and said, "Oh, I hope you don't mind, but I offered for you to take my friend's pet pig because she was in college. She had purchased a pet pig from a breeder and then brought it to school. And the landlord was like, absolutely not. You cannot have a pet pig. Her family didn't want to take it. And so she was worried about giving it up to a shelter or to a farm, not knowing, what would happen at the end.
Mhm.
And so my brother was like, "Oh, don't worry, my sister will take it." So my first day of vet school, I got my pig Penelope. She was 3 months old at the time, and I learned a lot. I was like, wow, I did not know what it means to be a pet pig owner, but I quickly learned. And she's still with me now. I absolutely love her to death. And I send the girl that gave her to me all photos and updates and stuff on how she's doing so that she stays in the loop. But that is how I got my pet pig. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
So it really wasn't your decision. So you didn't really have time to like do the whole research thing and,
Yes.
find someone you wanted to get it from. You
Yep.
just kind of had this pig dropped in your lap. Great
Yeah.
brother
Yeah, right?
volunteering
I
you.
was like, I mean, I'm never gonna say no, but maybe not the first day of vet school.
Yeah,
Like that was a little bit
it's a little
stressful.
much. Yeah.
It was a little much, but I don't regret anything and I wouldn't change it for the world.
How cool. So you said like there was kind of a learning curve there. What
Oh
kinds of
yeah.
things did you deal with in the beginning that were kind of like shocking to you?
I I guess the way I had always perceived pigs were, very intelligent and I guess I didn't know exactly that they were as rambunctious and as driven to explore literally everything um, as I encountered when I got her.
Mhm.
I remember her just like running around, like screaming all the time because she was excited and she wanted to do everything and touch everything. And I was like, how do I stop this from happening? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, why is she screaming? I don't know why she's screaming. And the other thing I really didn't know and quickly learned are the different communications they have, like the different grunt levels and squeals. And I now am very aware of them and can be like, okay, don't touch that pig. That pig is angry and not
Uh-huh.
excited, or they're just screaming because they don't want you to touch them versus they're in distress. So that was a big learning curve because I'd always just attributed a squeal to a pig, but not the different vocalizations that they have.
Oh, yeah, you're so right. I always say that pigs are excellent communicators. They
Oh, yeah.
love to talk and they love to tell us everything. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
we don't speak the same language, so we have to muddle our way through and kind of figure out what they're trying to tell us, but that's so funny. Yes, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Being very
Yeah.
confused. They do put their snout in everything. They wanna check
Everything.
out everything.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I consider them to be more like a toddler,
Oh.
not so much like a pet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they need
Especially,
supervision.
yeah, especially the like alarm clock that they have when they know it's food time. Like on the dot. The
Mhm.
second it occurs, they're up and they're ready for food. And they're like, come on, get up, get up. And I was like, how do you know? How do you know what time it is?
Mhm.
I'm shocked. Like, I had no idea that that was possible with them, but oh, it
Yeah,
is.
it's
They
amazing. They can
are
tell time. There's
clockwork.
no doubt about that.
Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned to me that you trained under, well, why don't I just let you tell us? Why don't,
Yeah.
because you can probably explain it much better than I can since you lived it. So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit like, so, oh, I have one question. So when you got your pig, and what was her name?
Her name's Penelope. Her
Penelope,
name was
that's right.
originally Bacon, and she didn't know it. And there's too many Kevin Bacon pigs out there in the world.
Hmm.
And I didn't like Bacon. So I was like, you're cuter as a Penelope. So we're going to name you that.
I love it. I love that. I
She
am
had no idea
also,
her name.
yeah, I am not uh, like a pork, sausage, bacon. I am not a lover of those names for pigs.
No, me either.
I don't find it cute.
I don't either. I'm
I
like,
don't
that's a
like it.
little weird.
Yeah, I don't like it. So, so when you got her, it was your first day of vet school. At that point,
Yeah.
did you know that you wanted to go into pigs?
Yeah, I
Okay.
definitely knew I wanted to go into pigs, and she definitely pushed me more towards pet pigs being its own veterinary medicine field versus production or seeing pigs kind of on the side as like a backyard farm animal vet. More of like, I want this to be a specialty and I want to do everything to educate owners and to help them.
Yes. How cool. So actually, I should be thanking your brother.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool. Okay. So you went to vet school, you decided to specialize in pet pigs,
Yes.
and you heard about somebody. Her name is Dr. Mazzaccio.
Yep.
And so tell us a little bit about who she is and
Yeah.
why it was so cool that you got to work with her.
Yeah, so she is a veterinarian that is living in North Carolina currently. She is also a veterinary pathologist. She's board certified in that. So she has done a lot of work with examining pigs post mortem as well and trying to figure out kind of disease processes that occur that end up leading to their unfortunate death, but also helps us learn a lot, clinically as to how we can treat it or signs to look out for prior to getting to that point, which is awesome.
Mhm.
But she has her own mobile clinic that she goes around and she sees pigs at their homes. She also does have a couple pigs that come into a clinic that she works with, but a lot of them she sees them on the road. She has multiple licenses, so she also travels to the East Coast and she'll do a loop through the Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, usually twice a year. And so she works closely with a rescue called Ross Mill Farm.
Mhm.
And I contacted her because I found a lot of her papers on pet pigs. And I was like, wow, who is this woman? And I had a veterinarian at Ohio State have I had them contact a woman that she knew that worked with pet pigs in Canada, actually. And the woman in Canada recommended her and told me to contact Dr. Mazzaccio because she was in the States and she would know more. So I had contacted her initially with just a couple of questions that I had in regards to when she would vaccinate, what diseases she thinks are most prevalent, routine care, stuff for my own edification, knowing that I wanted to see pet pigs. And she had offered for me to do a 2-week externship with her. And we ended up doing that loop around Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland. And I learned so much from her. She is amazing. She recently wrote a book on pet pig medicine that I would highly recommend for any veterinarian that wants to see pet pigs, or honestly, any pet owner that just wants to know more. She gives a lot of good information in there. But certainly, and she will even tell you this, there's still so much we don't know and so much we need to learn. And so that's kind of how I came into contact with her. And I've seen her a couple additional times, and we have consulted on a couple of cases that we've seen that we're both like, I don't know where else to go from here. Where would you go? So she is a great resource and mentor to me, and I appreciate everything she's done.
Oh, I love watching any YouTube video she is in.
Yeah.
I want to watch it. She
Yeah.
is so knowledgeable. I love hearing her talk, and it's not very often that I get to like, and I'm not trying to say this, gosh, I don't want this to come off as like a cocky thing or anything, but I mean, I've had pigs for a long time.
Yeah.
So usually I'm teaching somebody else that something they don't know.
Yeah.
So when I find people who know so much more than me, I want to be glued to their side because I want to learn what they know. I want to learn
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
so I did see that she had that book come out, and
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if it is more for like a veterinarian, or if like if I could understand it.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's useful for pet pig owners also, because it talks a lot about just basic um, nutritional needs and basic handling and training, like leash training and harness training and potty training, and just like normal pet pig owner details that are useful. Certainly, I think her target audience was more of the veterinary medicine side, so that, you know, if a veterinarian needed to see a pet pig, they could pick up this book and kind of be like, okay, how to do this.
Yes.
But I think it still provides a lot of great information for pet pig owners, and I think the language is very understandable
Okay.
for a layman. Yeah.
Okay. So all of us need to buy this as a gift for our vet.
Yeah. 100%.
It is, and I'm gonna buy it too. I'm very interested. I have a lot of pig books, and I find that
Yeah.
most just pig owners who write a book, um I don't I don't really care for them
Yeah.
because they're not detailed enough.
Yeah.
They're not detailed enough to where they're actually helpful. Um, and but a book like that, I could devour that.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I put it on my list. I'm gonna get it. I'm pretty sure I saw that you could get it on Amazon.
Yeah. You
Okay.
can.
Okay, great. I'll be doing
Yeah.
that. Thank you so much for that.
Of course.
So, where are you? Oh no, I had another question for this. Well, we kind of already talked about why you chose to go ahead and choose pet pigs as a specialty. Was there
Yeah.
anything else that you wanted to add about that, or should we just move on?
Um, no, I think we can move on.
Okay.
I think I
All
talked too
right.
much about it.
Okay. So tell us where you are now,
Yeah.
where you are, like what services you offer. And I have a couple of detailed questions about that, but go ahead and tell us that first.
Yeah. So right now I reside in Fair Lawn, Ohio, but I work in Canal Fulton,
Mhm.
Ohio at Fulton Animal Hospital. They're predominantly dogs and cats, but there's a veterinarian there that sees sheep, goats, and chickens, kind of backyard farm. Uh, Sheep, goats, and chickens, not necessarily production. And I had gone in with the intention of finding a clinic that would allow me to see pet pigs and treat them accordingly. And this practice was very open to it. So I have brought in the service of seeing pet pigs, and it's been going well so far. I am offering services of just basic care, so vaccinations, hoof trim, tusk trim, physical exam, that sort of thing. But we also have an ultrasound and an x-ray at the clinic We have a surgical suite. So I plan on also doing spays and neuters if needed, and basic emergency care. We're not open late for like overnight emergency care or anything like that. But certainly if your animal is ill and may need more than just, your farm call, we certainly can see them. My long-term goal would be to be able to do dentals on pigs
Ooh.
because that is something me and Dr. Mazzaccio have been pretty firm on, that pigs need good dental care like a dog and a cat. Um, it's not easy because the teeth of a pig are multi-rooted more than just a dog and a cat. So it's definitely something that would need kind of perfecting in order to be able to do, but it's definitely a goal of mine because dental disease in pigs is high. And
Mhm.
if we can figure out a way to combat it earlier rather than later, our hope is that we don't see as many pigs with severe dental disease, tooth root abscesses,
Mhm.
that sort of thing.
That is so interesting. So, do you have any tips on for us as pig owners, like what we can do for our pig's teeth?
Yeah. So in an ideal world, a pig would allow us to brush their teeth, which is pretty much not feasible.
Mhm.
Um, I do recommend I use the dental wipes. If you use a dog dental wipe, that's fine. You can find them on Amazon. They usually sell them there as well, or your local pet store. And just brushing or basically wiping the outside surface of their teeth is sufficient enough because their tongue will take care of the inside surface
Mm.
of their teeth. So it's mostly just getting into those back teeth that's really the root of the problem. Unfortunately, there are some pigs that are intolerable to that. So certainly there are water additives, which I'm a little hesitant to always recommend, as some pigs, if their water tastes funny, they will completely adverse to water. And I never want a pig to get dehydrated because I added a water additive to
Mhm.
their water. But if you can find like a long toothbrush that will allow them to brush their teeth, that would be great. And the other thing I tend to recommend are the Oravet chews. They're
Mm.
made for dogs,
Oh yeah,
but
we give those to our dog.
yeah, they're like the green ones with the little white strip in the middle.
Yeah.
The reason I like those versus, greenies or whimsies or all the other dog kind of dental chews out there is those are soft. And so it makes the pig actually chew on them versus the whimsies and the greenies. Pigs tend to take one bite and then swallow them. So they
Mm.
don't really have an effect. And the purpose of them is so that they manipulate their mouth and get all the surfaces. So those chewable ones, if a pig likes the taste of them, are great because they actually have to move it around in their mouth and really chomp down on it in order
Hmm.
to digest it. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. That is good advice. I have another question. So you have pigs that come into the office. Do you have any tips for pig owners that can kind of help them to get their pig into the office a little more easily? It's not always
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, I always recommend harness training at a young age. My usual tip and trick is to purchase a harness and then start placing it as the pig is eating. So, like, utilize like just putting it over their head as the pig's eating. Obviously, they'll back up at first, but
Mhm.
their drive for food will be much stronger. They'll keep eating. And so then you'll get it over their head. And then, the next time, try to get it over their head and in their legs or through their legs so that you can then go ahead and latch it on, or slip it on if you have whatever type of harness you have.
Mhm.
Um, that would be the best. If that's not feasible, usually I recommend putting them in an airport crate, one of the ones with a solid bottom, not the wire cages, just because they tend to get a lot of hoof damage and caught in it, and
Mhm.
it just is not the best for them. If those aren't feasible, usually there are some people that will do pig transport. I haven't been able to find one in this area yet, but that is definitely a goal of mine to find someone in this area. There are some people that will transport them from your home to the veterinary office. They have them down near Columbus, I know, and they also have a couple in North Carolina and Pennsylvania that will do it. Sometimes they're local rescues, sometimes they're just people that have pets, pigs, and know, good tips and tricks on how to get them in. Ramps are the best friend for people with pigs to try to get them in the car. Um, and then also some people, I've had clients that are older and they just cannot get their pig in the car. They used to be able to lift it with a cage, and now that's just not feasible. And usually for them, I will go out to their house and see them, just because it's not, it's just something that's it's not feasible for them, and I want their pig to get the best care, and I know how much they care about their pig, and there's no reason for them to get hurt in the process of trying to get their pig into a vet.
Yeah, that's so kind of you to do that.
Yeah, of course.
So you did mention that you offer hoof trimming.
Yeah.
Can I ask what kind of hoof trimming that you do?
Do you mean in terms of what type of tools I use? And
Yeah. Like, would it be more like a professional hoof trim, or here's the reason I ask, because many
yeah.
times when somebody takes their pig to the vet, of course, a lot of vets want to put them to sleep to be
Oh
able to
yeah,
work on their hooves.
no.
Okay. And so I try to suggest that if there's any other option, to try the other option first before
Yeah.
you have to, you know, let your pig doze before, while it's happening.
Yeah.
But recently I was trained to do like flip the pig method.
Yep.
Is that what you do?
Yeah, yeah. So I was taught to flip pigs as well. I find it to be the most effective method. I've definitely come across veterinarians who beg to differ and put to sleep every pet pig they see for a nail trim. I struggle with that because pigs don't always do the best under anesthesia. And especially as they get older, I
Mhm.
always worry about the repercussions of putting them under. Um, so I tend to flip them. If I can get them to just do a belly rub and kind of lay on their side, that's great. But not all pigs are feasible for that. So I will flip them. If I have an older pig that I suspect has some arthritis and it would be uncomfortable for them to be on their back for a really long time, I will either use a like trough that is padded so they can lay on
Oh,
that to help
interesting.
ease some of the pain that's and
Yeah.
pressure that's being put on their back. There's also what's called a Pama Pinto sling. I currently don't have one, but I've worked with Dr. Mazzaccio and she has one.
Hmm.
Um, and essentially what it is the sling lowers all the way to the ground. The pig can walk directly onto it. And it has two holes for their front legs and two holes for their back legs. And then it also has an additional hole where their head is. And that's mostly used for blood draws because it's mostly where their neck sits rather than their face. But they just kind of hang out in there. You crank it up so that they're elevated off the ground and you can actually sit underneath the sling and then do their hoof trim
Hmm.
because they're being hung essentially.
Hmm.
They can't get out of it. So most pigs tolerate it and actually end up falling asleep in it
Wow. Okay.
rather than it being a stressful situation where they're,
Yes.
uncomfortable and screaming and stuff like that.
Yes. And also, like, I can see how that would be so beneficial because when you do flip the pig, you have to hold them with your legs
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're bending over. So, oh my goodness, like after all day of that, or even
Yeah.
just one session, like my back, I was like, wow, this
Yeah.
is really hard on your back. And um, I noticed like when pigs do get flipped, they kick a lot.
Yeah.
So when they're in that sling, do they kick a lot?
Um, Some will initially kick, but most of the time they kind of relax and just like when they're suspended, they realize that they're not really going anywhere and that they are more comfortable just hanging out rather than fighting you. Especially when you put like a weighted blanket on them, they
Oh,
are like out. Like they just want to snooze the rest of the time. They don't want to get out of it. So it actually is very beneficial. It's costly to purchase one, but definitely worth the investment, especially if you have a pig that has early onset arthritis
mhm.
or, is has been always rowdy and you don't want to anesthetize them every single time.
Yeah.
Definitely worth investing in. The other method, I don't know if I assume based on your description that you flip them kind of as they're walking and you flip them over. Is that correct? Like
So
they'll
what we try to do is we try to get them to lay down.
okay.
So if possible, we get them to lay down,
And then
relax,
just
and
turn
then
them
we're
over.
able to just flip them up, yeah, on their
Okay.
backs.
Some pigs, now this is usually for pigs that are not long and not heavy per se, so smaller sized pigs.
Mhm.
You can get underneath their shoulders. So their front arms are hanging out like this, you're underneath them, and you flip them so that they're sitting on your lap.
Yes.
That that works as well, especially with the kicking because you squeeze their bottom and you have more control of their front legs.
Mm,
The unfortunate part is you usually need two people then because you need
yes.
someone to hold and then someone to then go ahead and trim the hooves. But that does work for some pigs more than just the laying down and flipping them over.
Yes. We did a little bit of that too.
Yeah.
I'm I'm still learning, so
Yeah.
I'm not proficient enough to sit and do it while holding them. Standing and holding them with my legs for me works better now, but I'm
Yeah.
hoping to get, I have 9 pigs, so I can get a lot of practice, and that's what I'm
Yeah.
hoping to do. I'm hoping to just keep up on their maintenance trims so that, and really my pigs do a lot of, they like, I forget what she called it. Like they kind of take care of themselves because we have so many different kinds of terrain for them to walk on. So,
That they kind of grind them down.
yeah, they like file naturally. So, we didn't have with my pigs, we didn't have like any major issues. We had a little balancing,
Yeah.
it was nothing major,
Yeah.
but but it was fun to be able to learn that. Definitely need more practice, but
Yeah.
it's a nice thing to be able to do for people because like I was saying earlier, a lot of even vets just clip
Yes.
and they're not really knowledgeable on how to do it, so they end up causing more damage than, so that's really hard for people because if you don't know how to do it and you don't know anybody who really has the skills and the understanding of how a hoof works and how it needs to be trimmed and you're just counting on your vet to clip it.
Yeah. Yeah, there are, and I'm sure you may have come across some of them, some good pig farriers out there that really know their stuff when it
Mhm,
comes to like balancing and arthritic hooves and,
mhm,
getting down those layers. So, definitely a suggestion for people that I have that need more frequent hoof trims, like every 3 months, because they have really arthritic hooves that just need the constant care. Um, but I agree. I have seen the big, like equine nippers used as the only source of hoof trimming.
mhm,
Um, you can't really estimate with those how much of the hoof you're taking off until you cut it. So,
mhm.
unfortunately, it does cause a lot of damage without even realizing it at first. So, I usually use a Dremel and the little full like nippers that you would use for sheep and goats as
Mm,
well, so that you don't necessarily take as much off. And then I typically reserve the larger equine nippers for hooves that are severely overgrown, where I know I can take off a decent amount without causing any damage. But the balancing and getting a good hoof trim is definitely an art.
It
It's
is.
truly an art.
It is, and it's a skill. Oh my word. I was
Yeah.
so blown away. So, Nikki Taylor, who lives in California, she runs a hoof trimming business out there, and she's
Okay.
so knowledgeable. She came and stayed with us so that she could teach me how to do it.
Oh my gosh, that's
I
awesome.
I was so privileged to have her come out, let me tell you. So she came, she just stayed for a long weekend. And then while she was here, we did an event where people could bring their pigs, and that's how I learned. I learned on mine,
Wow.
and I learned on people who came, and it was just a blast, and we're hoping to be able to do it again. But with you so close to us,
Yeah.
man, I would love it's just so nice to have somebody else, because you're way more knowledgeable than I am about so many things when it comes to pigs, and I'm so happy to be able to have like somebody where I can say, this here's her card, this is
Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
need to go. It's awesome.
Thank you.
There are a couple other things I kind of want to pick your brain about,
Yeah.
because um you I mean, you're so knowledgeable when it comes to pigs and pig health, and so I'd love to hear what you have to say. So
Yeah.
the first one is, do you get a lot of people who tell you that a mini pig doesn't exist? And if so, then how do you respond to these people?
Oh, yeah. I get that all the time. Um, I usually inform people that they do exist because anatomically they are dwarfs of their um, production pig ancestors. Um, I also usually respond with, by definition, a mini pig is up to 300 pounds. So your pig is in fact a mini pig. Yes, you weren't guaranteed the 40 pounds that you were told, but by definition, they are a mini pig. They're
Mm-hmm.
small for what they're supposed to be.
Yes.
A lot of people get blown away when I tell them up to 300 pounds. I usually inform them that there are some breeds that are smaller. They like to stay under the 150 mark just because that's how they've been bred to be. But it's a big problem. The idea that a mini pig is supposed to be small, very small. And honestly, I think a lot of social media is misleading. Like I see a lot of videos online, especially on like Facebook, of these cute little mini pigs, and look at how cute it is. But they don't tell you the full story, that the pig ends up in a rescue or in a shelter type situation, or even I've seen like left on the street, like just released, because they get big,
Mm-hmm.
which they're supposed to, especially when you're feeding them properly.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to grow. They have a high food drive. They're going to eat as much as they want to eat. And so it really ends up being a sad situation. And I think a lot of it is just not having proper education to owners on what it really means to have a quote unquote mini pig.
Exactly. Exactly. I agree 100%. And I think the problem really falls with like people who are, well, first of all, people in general, everybody just wants a small pig. They're cute. you know,
They're adorable.
they're
Yeah.
absolutely adorable. So people look at it and they say, okay, I want that forever.
Mm-hmm.
And there are unscrupulous people out there who have realized that that's what people want. And so they market towards those people. They gave the term teacup. And
Mm-hmm.
really, really, in all reality, what that means is when it's born, it fits in a teacup. But it's
Yep.
very deceiving. It's very deceiving. That's what people
Yeah.
want. So they like let their emotions get all overrun with this cute little pig that it stays tiny forever, when in reality, as we know, it does not.
Yeah.
So it's so sad, especially nowadays. I mean, I know of a guy in California, his teacup pigs are $8,000.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah,
That is
$8,000. And
no.
they die very young. They're so
Yeah.
unhealthy because, and there are breeders all over I know the US for sure, possibly even the world, who are teaching people that pigs can be 25 pounds. I've heard 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And that is just not the truth. And if your pig does stay that small, it is not healthy. It's gonna die. It's
Yeah.
gonna die really young. And that's what happened to
Yeah.
me. My first pig, only I mean, he was so small, he was the size of a cat at 2.5 years old. I
Oh,
had no clue. I thought, man, did I get lucky? Because my pig stayed small, and then he died in his sleep. And
oh, that's so horrible. I'm
it,
so sorry.
it was awful. But you know what? His sweet little life fueled in me a need to know the truth. Like, I want to
Yeah.
know what's going on. And so, because of that, and back then there was no internet.
Yeah.
I went to the library. I got 2 books. They were not helpful at all, but that's all I had.
Yeah.
And so today I really have tried to step up and be the person that I needed back then. You know, who can I
Absolutely.
ask questions to? Who can I find real, true information? Who's had pigs in the house for a really long time and
Yeah.
knows how big they should be and how they should eat? And so I know I do get a lot of flack because I am a breeder, but I am not the typical breeder. I have
Yeah.
4 litters a year. 4. Most breeders they could have 100 litters a year.
Yeah.
4. That is it. That's my cap, because every litter I work really hard to make sure they're healthy, to make
Yeah.
sure they're social, to make sure they get what they need. They're all spayed and neutered, all that stuff before they
Yeah.
leave me. And then I support the family for the life of the pig. So I really do try to set myself apart as being different from those unscrupulous people who are really just after the money. I love pigs.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
love.
Well, thank you, because there are definitely breeders out there that don't take the initiative to educate owners and to give the pigs the initial care that they need. There's some breeders that never tell owners to spay and neuter their pigs, and then it becomes either a problem of overpopulation
Mhm.
because their drive to reproduce is very high,
Oh, yeah.
or becomes a problem where we see, a 6-year-old pig come in that ends up needing to either have emergency surgery or be euthanized because they have a uterine tumor,
Mhm.
or they have, a complication. Cryptorchid males is a big, big problem that we see, where they have a retained testicle in their abdomen, and the owners claim, they got neutered, see, they're missing their testicle, and in fact it's in the abdomen, and that increases their risk of cancer. And so a lot of breeders and owners don't have the education that they need. um, I've come across breeders as well that, have bred to be the teacup size, the smallest possible. And a lot of them, like you encountered, end up having many medical
Mhm.
issues. I had one in my clinical year that I knew the owner, and they would be in the clinic every month for oxygen therapy for their little pig because its lungs were so small and that it just couldn't support its body. And so it breaks my heart because they are great pets. They deserve all the love and care that they can get. And our want and desire to get them smaller is just hindering them in the long
Oh,
run. And so yeah, it's a big problem. I see it also on the dog and cat side. People breed for their own desires. And so it's certainly not something that's new. But definitely something, if we can stop it or educate people enough to know to stop it, it will help a lot.
Yes, I agree. What about when it comes to overweight pigs? I follow a lot of pig like Instagram pages and
Yeah.
Facebook pages, and it my biggest pet peeve is like a really super obese pig, and then in the next like story I see them feeding like an Oreo or pizza or ice
Mhm.
cream. It makes me really upset because I'll tell you just a little tiny story. I
Yeah.
have a pet pig. Her name is Topanga. And when she was about 3 years old, we had a summer where the clover was just beautiful in our yard. And she ate so much clover. And I was like, oh, just let her be a pig. She's fine. She got so fat and not obese, but I mean, she had such a big
Yeah.
belly that to come into our house, you have to climb up onto our porch, and there's three little steps, and then
Okay.
there's one step in the door to the house. And I remember watching her one day at the end of the season, and I could see the look on her face, and she was like, every time she would walk, she would like flinch. I
Oh
could
no.
tell that that weight on her was painful for her to walk up those three little steps and then to kind of jump into the house. Her little back legs slipped out and she kind of like had to drag those last. And she wasn't morbidly obese. She just had a big belly from eating all that
Yeah.
clover for a couple weeks. But when I saw that, I thought, wow, that really impressed on me how their bodies really aren't meant to be, have like that protruding hanging belly, having that sway in the back. It broke my heart to see the pain on her face. And so now I see that in pigs all over Instagram and Facebook.
Oh
And
yeah.
I feel like I could get on a soapbox like, please, please let me help
Yeah.
you. Like let's just but I don't know. What is your opinion on that? Am I being like over dramatic here?
No, I think across the board, people find food to be love. Like it's a sign of endearment that you love your pig, you love your animal. So let's, give them everything that they want and deserve. Pigs have a high drive for sugary foods. One of my professors in undergrad always used to say like pigs love chocolate, and I'm like, yep, they love sugar. Anything that's sugary is their best friend. And so people that feed a lot of the commercial high fatty foods that are processed and for humans end up causing their pig to be morbidly obese, and it does cause a lot of health problems. People don't have proper education on one, how much to feed. And I think a lot of that stems from not enough research. There's a lot of research in commercial pig nutrition, because all of it is targeted to how quickly can we grow a pig in the shortest amount of time to make it to market. And so that's great, but we can't really utilize that nutritional guideline for our pet species because the goals are completely different
Mhm,
and a lot of their body shapes are completely different.
mhm,
So then we're kind of stuck with, what is good nutrition and what's poor nutrition. There's a lot of great commercial diets out there, that uh, offer a good nutritional profile. I think a lot of the problems we see with the nutrition that's out there currently is that we are still seeing a lot of skin problems, dry, flaky skin. And I I have talked with a lot of vets about this, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fat content we tend to cut the fat content in our pet pig food to like 2 to 4% fat. And I think it takes a toll on their skin. Um, Certainly you can supplement oils and add fat to the diet to help combat that, but really getting a diet that will target for, good skin is definitely something I hope in the future we have,
Mhm.
because the amount of pigs that present with dry skin that's solely based on nutrition and not, a viral or a
Mhm.
fungal type infection is certainly um, a problem. The
Mhm.
other problems we see with obesity are entropion. And so that's the inward rolling of the eyelashes, and they rub against the eye, and it can be so damaging that the pig can become blind, secondary to the rubbing. There is surgery to fix that, but a lot of the time it's not a matter of a congenital abnormality so that they had it since birth, but rather they're morbidly obese, and the fat deposits within their eyelids are so great that it's causing their eyelids to roll under. And so usually weight loss will be self-corrective on that problem, but owners don't know that. And so they present because they can't see their pig's eyes, or their pig has a lot of eye discharge
Mhm.
and they don't understand why. And then the other thing that we see with obese pigs is certainly arthritis, making arthritis worse or developing arthritis. Um, more like morbidly obese pigs, people think are what they should look like because of a lot of pictures and content out there kind of promotes them to be these big belly touching the ground,
Right.
eyes squinty
Yeah.
looking animals, but that's not the case.
Mhm.
I tend to point out to owners that when pigs get morbidly obese, their ears, instead of being straight up, kind of tilt downwards and straight out. Their eyes, you usually can't see. They look like they're squinting or that their eyes are closed all the time. They're In an ideal world, you'll feel their ribs, but you won't be able to see them. So you'll be able to feel them if you're kind of putting pressure on each side of them, but you certainly don't want to see them. And then the other big thing we want to see is that their two hip bones at the top, you can sort of see where they're supposed to be, but you shouldn't see big prominent hip bones. That certainly means that they're too thin. So finding the right balance can be challenging, especially when pigs have access to outdoors. They love to forage for whatever they can get their hands onto, especially during the fall with the acorns. That I see a lot of increase in pigs gaining a lot of weight because of it. Um, but I typically recommend for an adult pig to eat a half a cup twice a day, or a cup, how at least a cup a day, and spread it out however you want to. Pigs do better with smaller meals throughout the day, although a lot of people work. It's infeasible to do small meals throughout the day. So I tend to recommend doing at least a cup a day and then just splitting it up however works with your schedule. And then for a pig that's 6 months or less, I usually recommend only a half a cup of food a day. And again, you can split it up however you would like. Some pigs are more active than others, so certainly there's exceptions to that. They may need a little bit more nutrition. And if pigs are outside all the time and foraging for their own goodies, I typically recommend either cutting their portion of their food, or you really don't need that evening portion if they've been out all day eating everything in sight, because certainly they're going to get their nutritional needs from foraging alone. It's not that we're lacking any nutrition by not feeding them the produced brand of food. Um, for weight loss, there have been some indications that you can feed a very small amount of food, and pigs don't seem to have any health repercussions. At Ross Mill Farm, which is a rescue in Pennsylvania, they do a piggy fat camp, which is adorable. But essentially, what it is these pig owners will sign off for them to live at the farm for a year. And the woman that, yeah, so it's a long time, but the woman that runs it, her name's Susan, she has been doing this for years and she is absolutely phenomenal at it.
Yeah, I
She
really like
will,
Susan. Yeah.
yeah, she is a boatload of knowledge in
Mhm.
one person. But she will cut their food to about a fourth a cup and she will get them out. She will make them move. If that means that they have to be with piglets and the piglets are jumping all over them and they get annoyed and they get up and move, they will get up and move. So it really is a combination of decreasing their food and then just getting them more active. Usually, if it's a matter of getting pigs more active and they don't do something like a piggy fat camp, I usually recommend scattering their food, whether that is outside in the yard, you can scatter it, or if you have a rooting mat or creating a rooting box where they really have to work for their food. Not only is that good intellectually, but it also makes them move around more to try to get their food, which some pigs, they just don't want to get up. They're
Yeah.
stubborn. They
Yeah.
they like resting and they
Yeah.
don't want to get up. So certainly that encourages a little bit more exercise than what they were previously getting. But yeah, definitely stay away from the processed human food. Don't
Oh,
go down that route.
yes. And the hard part is like once you start feeding your pig those things,
They
oh,
want them.
then they don't want the food they should have. And
Yeah.
then they look at all your food as their food. I mean, it creates a massive problem.
Yeah.
And so you just don't even want to start down that road.
Yeah. A couple other things I see
Oh,
commonly with like nutrition, people feeding dog food. Please, 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 please do not feed your dog food to your
oh,
pig.
please. Yes.
Um, it has a high salt content in there, which does lead to salt toxicity in pigs, which is a real concern, as it can lead to many neurologic symptoms and even death. The other thing we see is people using like the equine scoopers instead of like a human cup scooper. So they are like, oh, I'm only feeding a cup of food. And
Mhm.
then I ask to see their cup of food. And then it's
Yes.
the equine scooper. And the equine scooper is about this big.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is a lot of food. We do not need to be feeding that much food. So definitely using like a human measuring cup is recommended. Um, and then I was going to say something else and I totally blanked out on. And then I was going to say some people complicate their food regimens, like they want a salad on top of their food and they want fresh fruits and all this, gourmet per se stuff. It's not necessary if they're eating a commercially produced diet that has all of their nutritional needs. They don't need any supplementation. Certainly, if you want to go through the measure of making them a salad, go ahead. It's not going to hurt them, but it's definitely not necessary. And in terms of fruits, I usually say to stay away from them and use them more as treats on special occasions if you need them to move into your car or something of that nature. Utilize it then. Don't feed them on a daily basis because again, that high sugar content will just drive them to want sugary foods again and
Yeah.
again.
Exactly. Every single thing you said, I agree with. like
Yeah.
over the top. I cannot shout it loud enough. Like
Yeah.
everything you said, I agree with 100%. I do have a question. Um, is there a particular food brand or food that you like, or any maybe that let's not talk about the ones we don't like. Let's just talk about the
Yeah.
ones we do like.
Um, I I feed Missouri. I like the Missouri brand. Some people have claimed that it's not best for their skin, that there are better brands out there for their skin. There's Mana Pro, Champion, and there's another one that starts with an N that I'm drawing a blank on the name.
Yeah.
But all of those, yeah, are good brands. I mean, I people have pros and cons to all of them. None of them are perfect by any means. But they are nutritionally adequate for what a pig needs. The other foods I recommend are equine senior diets.
Hmm.
The reason behind that is they tend to have a little bit more fat content,
Ah.
but also are nutritionally adequate in terms of fiber, carbohydrates, and protein for pigs. A maintenance diet for a horse or any other horse diet tend to have higher protein, so I don't recommend those, just the equine senior ones.
Hmm.
But those are certainly brands that I would recommend if owners are seeing a lot of skin problems and don't really have tried everything and don't really know where else to go. I've also seen some pigs, which this is another thing me and Dr. Mazzaccio have talked about, is allergies in pigs. There are some pigs that are developing skin issues that don't seem to resolve even with like added fats and added oils to their diet, or baths and treatment for bacterial infections or yeast infections. They chronically seem to have skin issues. And so there definitely needs to be more research because there's just none out there
Mhm.
currently. But we have high suspicion that some pigs are developing allergies,
Hmm.
whether that's environmental or food related is kind of individual to the pig. But I have seen some pigs with chronic skin issues that if you change the food, a lot of time they get better, even if the fat content stays the same. And so I have to assume it has to do a lot with the protein source or the
Mm.
carbohydrate in there rather than just a matter of, fat content or
Right.
or something of that nature. But yeah, it's definitely safe to feed equine senior food to pigs.
Now that I did not know.
Yeah.
I did not know
Yeah.
that. That's interesting. I wrote it down. Of course, I'm taking notes. Um, but I have fed because I've run into the same problem. Like some
Yeah.
foods just tend to cause more piggy rust, more dryness, more
Yeah.
weeping of the eyes. Like I just notice. And here's one difference about us. I don't like Missouri food.
Okay.
I have fed it. I fed it for a long time. And then I was
Yeah.
like, why do all my pigs always look dirty? And so, excuse me, someone mentioned try changing their food.
Yep.
At the time, our Tractor Supply only had Missouri and they had a Purina. It's just a pig and sow. It's not a
Yep.
grower. It's just a Purina pig and sow. So I'm like, well, this is my only other option. Let me try it.
It
And my pig's skin within a couple weeks was just beautiful.
Great. Yeah, I've
So,
heard that from multiple people that the pig and sow food, and again, I think it has to do with the fat content in it. It does wonders for their skin. The only problem I see with that a lot of the time is if people are feeding too much
yes,
already
yes,
of
you're
the
right.
Missouri and then they switch to pig and sow,
You're right.
they gain weight
Mhm.
very quickly.
Yes,
Um,
yes. And that
So
is
that's
something that I try to tell people, like, when you switch a food, it's
yeah,
not one to one.
yeah,
You have to figure out, I say start slow. Start with a
yeah,
quarter cup
definitely.
because they're all different. Like you said, the fat content is different. Sometimes the carbohydrate content is different. So you
Yep.
have to be very careful because it can happen fast. It doesn't take
Oh yeah.
long.
Yeah. I've
For
seen
that.
it where people are like, "Oh yeah, I tried pig and sow. I heard it's better for their skin," which I agree. I've seen great results on the skin end of pig and sow food that it works wonders. But they feed the exact same amount and I'm like, your pig's gonna get real big real quick. You better
Yeah.
watch out. But yeah, people, I mean, it's true for dog and cat food as well. People don't realize that there's calorie contents on the
Mhm.
back of the bag and that, um, all bags have different calorie contents
Right.
and the portion sizes may be different. So just keep that in mind when you're switching food.
Yes, that's great advice. Do you think this is a question? I don't know the answer to this question. I
Yeah.
am someone asked me and I was like, I don't know the answer to that question. So when when you have a pig that's very overweight and it takes a good bit of time to lose the weight, but once they lose the weight, do you think that their skin has a good elasticity to it to where it kind of bounces back, or do they tend to have like wrinkles or creases and things to where you can tell that they used to be overweight?
Yeah. I've I've seen pigs on both ends. I've
Hmm.
seen pigs lose weight. And if it's a more gradual weight loss, their skin usually compensates really well. They don't develop kind of the excess skin
Yeah.
pouch that we see sometimes. They may have a couple extra wrinkles in their skin than your typical pig that's been thin its whole life, but their skin bounces back. They compensate really well. I have seen it though where pigs are morbidly obese. They lose weight fairly quickly and then they develop that skin pouch.
Okay.
And what happens is if their belly touches the ground initially and they lose a little bit of that, the skin then drags on the ground and they step on it. And yeah, and I've seen it bad where like they cut their skin and they get
Oh,
really bad ulcers because the elasticity of their skin is just not compensating well. And you can do what we call a nip and tuck, which essentially is like you just remove the excess skin and suture it back, kind of like a tummy tuck. But um, they tend to do well with that. That is definitely something that people have to do for their pigs if their skin elasticity doesn't bounce back. But I really think it's a matter of gradual weight loss versus more rapid weight loss. Some people, when they hear weight loss, they go all in and
yeah.
they just rapidly cut the food.
Yeah.
And the pig does lose weight. It's great, but then you come out with the side effects of their skin not having the time to bounce back.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's a lot like people.
Yeah, yeah,
Pigs are so
exactly.
much like people.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that. That's
Yeah, of
really
course.
helpful. And that makes a lot of sense. Um, what do you think, as a pig owner and as a pig
Yeah.
veterinarian, where you get to, you've seen a lot of people with their pigs, you've been to their homes, they've been in the clinic, you've seen a lot. So, what do you think is the biggest challenge when it comes to having a pet pig?
Ooh. Um, hmm. I think I think the biggest challenge is their need for exploration and novelty and their their drive to like constantly explore, use their snout.
Mhm.
Because I see a lot of people claim that they have to give up their pig because their pig is destructive.
Oh, yeah.
They have torn through couches. They bite their tables, they destroy, comforters and stuff like that. And a lot of the time I see it in pigs that are only indoor, um,
Yes.
which I know this is controversial to say, but I really don't like pigs that are only indoor. I think being outdoors provides a lot of nutrition as
Mhm.
well as mental stimulation in and of itself. There's if you look at hoof growth and hoof health
Mhm.
alone, indoor pigs have far worse hoof
Yes.
health than those that are outside. Same goes with skin. And then in terms of destructibility, owner, pig aggression.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of that decreases when the pig is allowed outside to
Mhm.
explore,
Yep.
utilize their basic needs. Um, and so I think that's the biggest thing I see is that people just don't understand their inherent nature and their drive and their need, and they think, oh, it's just like a dog or a cat. I can keep it inside and only take it out to use the bathroom, or it doesn't need to go out in the bathroom. I'll just use a litter box or pee pee pads or whatever. And it creates a lot of problems long term because the owners just get more and more frustrated,
Mhm.
and they get to the point where they feel like they need to surrender their pig, and it's all just miscommunication between the owner and the pig
Mhm.
on what their basic needs are. Um, and I that's a big problem that I have with people, especially posting on the internet about pigs and how destructive they are. And I'm like, no, they're not. Like, they really aren't if they're provided with the things they need on a
Yeah.
daily basis.
There's so many things that we can do that
Yeah.
can help them to relieve that, because like in my mind, when a pig is destructive, they're frustrated. They're just trying to like fulfill instincts inside of them that they have no control over, and we're making it difficult for them. And if we're not letting them have outside time, one of the things that I teach in my programs that I teach, I always talk about how pigs are wild animals. They're outside. Outside is their natural habitat. And
Yeah.
when you have a pig in the wild, that pig has three jobs: to find food, make a bed, and procreate.
Yeah.
A lot of times we spay and neuter, so we take away the procreate.
Yep.
We give them a bed, we give them a nest, so we take that job away, and then we give them their food every day and we take that job away. So what are they supposed to do? They
Yeah.
have no job. They
Exactly.
need to fulfill those instincts in order for them to be happy.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's such a good one. No one has ever mentioned that one before, and it's got me all worked up. That is so
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
spot
I
on.
also see like people, and again, this is on the internet, so take it with what you may, but people post videos of their pig like rooting on them, and they're like, how do I get this behavior to stop? And I'm like, it's because that's their natural instinct.
Mhm.
And you probably adopted the pig a little too young, and it was supposed to be still nursing, and
Mhm.
that could be part of the problem. It's also a part that you're not giving them the mental stimulation to do that elsewhere. Like,
Mhm.
you're not providing that for them. And so, yeah, you're a great surface. And yeah, they're
Yep.
going to cause bruises when they do
Yep.
that because they have a bone to do that in their nose.
Mhm.
That's what they're naturally meant to do.
Yep.
So yeah, that's definitely a frustrating topic when I come across it.
If you could just give like people who are listening, somebody who wants a pig so bad, or maybe somebody just got a pig and they're listening for just educational purposes, what's one piece of advice that you would give them?
Ooh, oh gosh. I mean, I would honestly say like educate yourself as much as possible and no basic needs, no nutrition. And like, yes, my story is not the perfect example of that. I threw myself into it and learned a lot on the way. But I feel like education prior to adoption goes a long way. If people realize that their pig is not going to be 50 pounds the rest of its life, then maybe we saved that pig and that owner from getting it and the pig ending up somewhere it shouldn't be.
Mhm.
Um, and then also, please spay and neuter your pigs. Overpopulation is such a huge problem we're seeing, and shelters and rescues are just completely
Mhm.
full. Like they are at full capacity, they have no other place to go, but also they don't want to turn down a pig that needs a place to stay. Um, a couple other things I would say is try to adopt in twos. I have one pig, so again, I'm not the perfect example of that. But pigs do really, really well with a companion. They learn how to communicate with each other really well. They learn their proper, um, you know, cues on how to socialize. There's a lot less aggression between pigs
Mhm.
and humans
Mhm.
when there's two pigs in the house rather than just one. Um, and with that, again, I'm not a perfect example because I have a dog, but another species is not the same as having two pigs.
Right.
I Yeah, I am not the perfect example of that, but don't don't think that a dog or a cat is a perfect companion for your pig. They speak completely different languages and they can, cause damage. Like dogs are predators and pigs are prey. And so that's not benign in any way. And so those are a couple of tidbits of advice. I mean, it's not one important thing, but there's there's a lot to learn. And as long as you go into it with an open mind and you're willing to learn along the way, I think a pig is a great pet and
Mm.
they work really well in a lot of homes and a lot of different scenarios, and they're really intelligent and really loving. And I don't know, I'm obsessed with them, so
Uh,
I have a lot to say.
Same, same. I love my pigs. I mean, I don't we have 2 dogs, we have 2 cats, they're all outside animals,
Yeah.
but my pig is inside.
Yeah.
People find that comical. My dogs are outside, my pigs are inside. I'm a pig person. I
Yeah.
love the intelligence. I love their ability to I love their personalities, their sassiness. Like, I love that. I thrive on that.
Yeah, me too.
You have to know how to be the boss, I think.
Oh, yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
you have to be I always tell people like stubborn people like me, who I am stubborn, I always win. That's just
Yeah.
how it is. I
You
never
can't
get
be
up,
a
give up.
pushover. They know. They know how
Yes,
to push over a pushover.
they sure do. Well, Bridget, I mean, I have taken so much of your time today, but
Oh,
I
no, you're
I
okay.
can't tell you how much I enjoyed this conversation. Um, it was just awesome. So I just want to thank you again for being here. And I would love to do something again in the future, maybe something more specific on
Absolutely.
something, maybe health or even diet or
Yeah.
something. We'll have to chat about it, see what we can, a topic that we can pick that's a little more specific. But it's
Okay.
just been such a great time talking with you. Thank you so much for doing this
Thank
with
you
me.
so much for letting me ramble on and share my opinion. I really appreciate it.
It's been a blast.